Good morning, and good morning. Okay, I was depending on TV tell me what time it was, but it's 9:02. So I'm fashionably late. I am fashionably late. Good morning, good morning. How are you doing? Hoping you had a wonderful weekend. What'd you do? What'd you do over the weekend? I had a good weekend. Got a lot done. And there was a lot I didn't get to do. But for the most part, it was a grand weekend, and I'm here. I'm still living. I made it through. Thank God. Thank God for that. And today I wanted to talk about something that, just as like I did it maybe almost 3 years ago. I talked about our own little bias, and sometimes we are biased. Plain and simple. Um, it could have been our upbringing. It could be something that, by the people we associate with, we become more biased, or it just could be our own internal things that we just don't like. But, one of the things I just said I wanted to speak on is the fact that we have so many things that we can be together on, so many things that don't require us to be biased. But I believe sometimes biases force, relationships not to be able to be formed, love ships and business, ships and just looking at life ships. Just understand that we are who we are. And sometimes we can even look over people's biases and still be friends with them because what their level of intolerance is, or their level of distrust or dislike or whatever. You understand it, and you can certainly live with it. In some instances you can. So anyway, I found a poem written by Rick Batasta, Bastasa, Batasta. And I thought it was kind of cute because it reminded me of almost like something that would take us back to our childhood, where it would be, um, you know, something that could be inspiring to young people, to just says that just says it is what it is, no matter what. No matter what we want things to be, it still is the way it is. So this bias talks about a lion, and it says, even when the lion smiles at us, we still withhold confidence. Even if the lion is sincere and does not think of evil, like eating all of us as prey, we always think of the worst, even if just a picture of the lion smiling at us, we still suspect that this can be a trap, another deception. A lion is a lion is a lion, and will always be a lion, no matter what. As simple as that, ask the wind. As simple as that, ask the wind. I thought this was really cute because we think about it. The wind, to me, is something that kind of goes by us. It comes at us and it goes by us. It goes beyond us. And sometimes we might be caught up in the wind of things, of understanding, the importance of worrying about what something may or may not do to us. But it says we have our biases because we've already assumed, there's an assumption there that something could be done, something could be wrong, something would not be right about this person or that situation or that thing, only because we've already have some set concepts of what is or what isn't. But what here he says, it says a lion is a lion is a lion, but ask the wind, meaning that, to me, that says it could go by us. Stay there long enough, the lion may not be as bad as we think he is or she is. Okay, the lioness. We may find that if we stay in the presence of something long enough, we may have an effect on them where we're able to change the outlook, change the outcome, change the outgoing, where we're all of a sudden we're at another level, between the lion and us, the lioness and us. So sometimes we just have to stay the course. And it's difficult. Let me tell you, sometimes people make things difficult. And so, that's why for me, I look at the word of hope. I am a Christian, and I do tell you all that. And so for me, I look at the hope. How could we have even survived um 9/11? Some people obviously did not, and their only was escape was that they would go down um as a statistic from that. Whereas others of us, we've been able to live since 9/11, or since other big things that have happened, wars, and so many things, movements. We've been able to live through those things, and so we have a story to tell. And our story is that we made it through. And for us, even if we still, subsequent from all those things that happened, still have a bias, well, to me, that's when I put in my hope. And my hope says I still have hope despite of the 9/11. I still have hope despite of what the civil rights movement did or did not do, in spite of having my hope, even through deaths of my parents, my mother, my father, and my siblings. I still have hope. So I have to tamp down my biasness. I have to, because to me, that's how I live. I live based on, and with prayer and suffocation, and understanding that if I'm going to stay here, if I'm going to stay here, I have to live with what the world is presenting. And sometimes we never know. Good morning, Miss Rosie. How are you, sweet pea? Good to see you in this space. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. And so we have to understand that our lives are surrounded with things that we cannot control. So we have to learn to live with what we see, live with what we hear, live with who we meet. Oh no, we don't have to have them in our homes, and we don't have to do all of the, what I would say, the intimate or the closeness of that. But at least we're understanding the significance of our purpose is to stay here and live through the conditions that we're given. That's what we do. So, what is a bias? And I'll ask you, are you stuck this morning occasionally in your biases? Sometimes we are. That's why this morning I didn't use a picture of myself per se. It's like a play on my picture, but it just shows that there's three columns, and all the three columns are separated. And and I had asked her to, when she made it up, I asked her to make it where the columns were separated by whatever, and she put space. When we are separated by space, it's hard to step over the space unless we figured out how it can be done. Will it be done with a ladder? Will it be done with where we extend the ladder that goes across, and that we would crawl across to one of the other pillars? Don't know. But the concept really talks about, how do we bridge gaps? How do we make differences work for us? How do we do that? And so in order for us to do that, we have to place it in a what I would call a pocket of life that makes it work for us. Well, we can still be cordial. We can still say they have their opinion, they have their lifestyle, they have their whatever. It's like allowing people to be who they are. I don't. We always talk about at church, like I don't personally have. I can't make people do anything that I would like to see them do. It's not my choice. It's not my. I don't have that kind of puppetry thing going on. So I have to understand that they are who they are, just as I am. So anyway, a bias talks about it being prejudice in favor or against one thing, a person, a group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair and prejudiced. And all of us, I don't care who we are, probably have some kind of bias. We just do. It's a part of who we are. And even if we're able to get over them and understand them, that at least places us at in a potential where we're workable. We're workable. One of the things I know for sure is that my parents moved. Good morning, Maurice. How are you doing, Mo? Good to see you in the space. Today our word is bias, but I moved from New York, but my parents long before I was ever, conceived, moved from the South. And when they moved from the South, they moved from what they knew the South was at that time, which was extremely prejudiced. And, it was to the point where everything was segregated. So the schools were segregated, the water fountains were segregated, the bathrooms were segregated, the restaurants, back door versus front door, all those kinds of things I know nothing about. So my older siblings, I have, there were by the time I came along, there were 9 other siblings. Okay, so I am the anchor of all of that. And out of the 9 other siblings, the first 6 all grew up in the South. And so there, when I told them that I was moving to, this area, they said, wait a minute, isn't that down by Mississippi? I said, yeah. Alabama, yes. Georgia, yes. They said, oh, we ain't coming to visit you. And they didn't. None of the older siblings ever made it to Florida. Actually, my one sister did, but she was kind of she was always the cosmopolitan girl. So she lived in Los Angeles in the fast-paced life and loved it and enjoyed her life as a nurse. So her views were different. Her views were different. But the other siblings, their views were smaller. They were much more you know, biased towards ever returning to the South because of what they remembered of it. So my best girlfriend growing up is, and she still is a great girlfriend. We get a chance to talk, and every time I go to New York, I see her. When I lived in Italy, she's Italian. She came to Italy, and she says, "I can't believe it that you can speak Italian." I could then, I cannot now. I've lost it. But she ate macaroni and cheese and all the things and chicken and all the things that were traditional to our family on big days. And I would go to her house and I ate, pasta fazool, and her mother always made a beef noodle soup that I loved. And so I kind of try to do the recipe. I'm not really good at it, but just remembered some of the things she said, not all of them. But that was life for us. So I knew it so much, but our life was so different than my older siblings' lives. So I understand that their bias was ingrained by their experiences. Mine were not. So I couldn't relate. Never have, never can. I can't relate to the level of what they felt from that period of time in their lives. I remember my sister telling me it was horrible. It was just horrible. And my sister was really smart, and my other sister, as one in California, is very, very smart. So these, as young people, they were experiencing things that, they looked back on as giving them, memories that were not good. They were not good. And so I'm quite sure that they formed biases of the South just based on the experiences that they had. But anyway, what is a bias? It talks about it being partiality, favoritism, unfairness, one-sidedness, partisanship. It talks about it being bigotry, intolerance, racism, sexism, heterosexism, homophobia, anti-Semitism, discrimination, and they call it a jaundiced eye, a predisposition, a leaning towards one, or a predisposition of leaning, a tendency of predilection, and it also says it's an inclination. So those are all the words associated with bias. So bias has, even though it's a small word, it has a lot of connotations attached to it, which says, wow, it's powerful. It's powerful if you look at it in the realm of what it could do, which is cause hurt feelings and cause, divisiveness and separate countries. And, when we think about even what's going on now in the world, it's really based on biasness, having a bias towards one over the other, towards one against the other, and it's really a very interesting period in our lives that a lot of history can be learned just understanding the line it draws in sands in ownership of what, who has this and who has that, who has control over this and that. All those things are bias in their nature. So when we break the word down, my B is for what are the beliefs? Where do the beliefs arise from? It says, in the beliefs are the acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists. That's just the way. And we can hear it in all the political ads. We can hear it in the different things that go on within the Senate and the House and even the Supreme Court, how they lean left and right, up and down, where it places people to force them to either think about their own lives and how these things are related to them, whether they come from. Good morning, sweet pea. How are you doing, Deb? Love you. Good to see you in the space. Today our word is bias. And how we even if we think we don't have them, we all have them. So my first B is for beliefs. That's what I have. And belief speaks to the existence, to the acceptance that things exist in terms of statements that people think are true, or that things exist. And so it's a trust issue. It's a faith issue. It's a confidence issue in something or someone. And it says it's also the faith, the trust, the confidence, the reliance. How many of us rely on others to feed us? What feed us, how we should think and what we should vote on and who we should love. And I remember trying getting down as simple as trying to encourage my daughter what area I thought she should go into, and she was just not going for that, even though I thought she had and still do, because every time she goes to school, she'll do something like end up magna cum, but yet and still she didn't want to do anything that I wanted her to do. So sometimes you have to back off and just realize that you can't make those decisions for your children. You can't make them for your spouses. You can't make them for your friends. You can't make them, because they may find it to be your bias against something that they want or love or care about. So you have to stay in your place. Sometimes we just have to stand up and say, good morning. I am biased mostly in a good way. Me too. I agree with that, Sherry. I am too. I try to, and I know other people have biases. They may have biases against me. It might be the color of my skin, the way I wear my hair, the size I am, it could be anything, because biases comes in all forms, all shapes, all colors, whatever. A bias is a bias. Stay in your lane. Come on now, stay in your lane. I stay in my lane. I do. So the bias also talks about where the belief talks about it being, the reliance, the credence, the optimism, and the bope, not hope, but bope. So it makes you just put you in a position of, well, it is what it is. It is what it is. People believe what they believe, just like we believe what we believe. For the longest time, I wanted to believe that Santa was real. For the longest time, I hope no little kids watching this morning. But I just believed that Santa had to be real, knowing darn well that the tree that we put up every year that was always leaning and only had 3 or 4 branches because it had been knocked around the entire season leading up to the actual day of Christmas. But because we had to wait till we raised some money by singing in New York for us to get that tree, and it always looked like Charlie Brown's tree. I know I had Charlie Brown's tree. I know I did. And we put that, my mother would always want the tinsel thrown on it, please. So, and I hate tinsel to this day. Ooh, my bias. No tinsel in my trees, okay? But anyway, Debbie says, stay in your lane. Yeah, okay. But anyway, when I move on in the word, so beliefs are my first word under bias. My second, the I of bias for me is intolerance. Sometimes we have to realize that we do not tolerate other things, other situations, other people, where to go, where to eat. Now, I am biased about what I will eat. Plain and simple. Ignorant. Okay, Debbie, that's a good one. Ignorance. Sometimes ignorance does promote being biased, because if people don't know, they don't know what they're missing. They may have missed an opportunity to meet somebody that's a really wonderful human being, you know. Like, and I know I'm biased towards food, so you can't give me anything to eat and think I'm going to be okay. You know, for me, it's a visual thing, and then it's a texture thing, and then it's a taste thing. So a lot of times I will bow out of trying anything. At least I told y'all, I'm not going to try everything that you have to be tried. But at least I know that. But intolerance is an unwillingness to accept the views, the beliefs, or behaviors that differ from one's own. It says, you know, it's just that kind of situation. It says it could be insulatory, uh, and it could be prejudice, and it says it's basically provocational, prov- prova, provotalism, and partially inequity and injustice and unfairness. So it gets pretty deep when something is just not tolerated. It is easily looked at as being a total negative, you know, total negative. Let's see. What did she write? Good morning. Good morning. Megham. Megham. It says, but, long but, it could be self preservation. Maybe. Absolutely. I mean, I think for some people, they protect themselves. But you're right. Right. I do believe that. Sometimes if you look on the other side of what you can't see, but you can imagine, you can say, well, how did they get there? Maybe that's part of the conversation. Or the thought for you is like, this is why they feel this way. You can never leave out the parents of a child, such as the parents that were just recently convicted of basically supplying their child with a gun that he went to school and killed 4 children with. So you couldn't leave them out. I mean, that was the first time in this country that's ever been done, where the parents were also charged as the child was charged. And then he almost said, well, they didn't pay attention to me. You know, I was basically calling out for help and nobody heard me. You know, nobody saw me, nobody assisted me. But they did. But they bought the gun, and then they didn't take him out of the school system that day. You know, so that he could have been away from that situation. But he had access to the gun. So, you know, those things are scary, because at some point in time you do worry about liability. Was I in a position, you know, as a parent, as a friend, as a family member, to do more than what I did? You know, you ask those questions. And you know, they say intolerance, just like biasness and belief systems, those are raised up within us. They're either raised up by our upbringing and our parents or our associations. It could be through our religious connections. It could be through our political connections. All of those things kind of roll together of how we get to be people who can eventually become tolerant. You know, the intolerance is when, you know, there might be the danger, especially if people don't see boundaries beyond what I want you to believe and what I tell you to believe or expect you to believe, and you're not believing it, then that makes it confrontational. That those kinds of things to me make things really scary, you know. Um, I'm trying to read everybody's stuff. Is that I can't even read that word. Liberality, illiberality. Um, but yeah, those things that put us in a position where we might be able to understand things but not act on them. I mean, let's face it, all of us have probably thought things we shouldn't be thinking, done things that our pastor always talking about, gone places you shouldn't have gone, done things you shouldn't have done, drank things you shouldn't have drank. You know, those kinds of things. You know, we know that we put ourselves every day where we could be seen as intolerant of others, or them being intolerant of us based on things that we didn't know mattered. We didn't know should matter. We thought of it more of the in the context of how did you get there? We don't even think of it. Good morning, Lavender. What's the difference in an opinion and a bias? I think an opinion is something that is obviously your own. A bias could be shared by many, but an opinion is personal. A bias could be something that you could share with a multitude of people, especially if go to a certain religion every week, or even Bible studies, or certain meetings that you might belong to, certain clubs, certain, societies, sororities and all of those. That could be multiple in terms of numbers of people coming together for the same purpose, where the opinion to me is personal. It's a personal approach of looking at something, even though it may have a collective benefit by others who believe the same thing. But the opinion to me is personal. It's always going to be personal. Opinion is personal. What do you think? Let us be smart about it. Oh, let us be smart about it. I guess that's what that says. We should be. We should try to be smart about things, but not always, are we? Sometimes we're just. Sometimes we pass when others people pass with us. We go right along with the wind that I spoke about in the poem that I read. The wind passes us. Sometimes we're caught up in the wind. Sometimes we're caught up in the way things are going, towards other people, and theirs sounds much more convincing or much more solid than what we are thinking. And it maybe adds depth to what it is that we think and feel. It says Gone with the Wind. I love that. I know that movie had a lot of connotations and really suggested craziness on the North and South and the Civil War and all of that kind of stuff. But it was always my daughter and I's favorite movie that we would write. We just loved the fact that Scarlett was determined to live, okay, and no matter what, she was going to get what she needed. That was the heiress of the movie. That was her thing. Is that regardless of the way you all feel about whatever, I feel good enough about myself that I will go to the mat and to bat with you over anything, the land, my way of life, who I am, even though at what did he tell her at the end? Okay, Scarlett, I don't, you know the rest. So anyway, yes, that's a good one. Then I have for my A of bias. For my A of bias, I have abate. ABATE. It says of something perceived as hostile, threatening, or negative. It says become less intense or widespread. And it says that basically we need to look at that being a word. And attitude is good. Attitude is really good. It says abate means to perceive as something that, as I said, it is hostile, negative, but we want to make it less intense. So that means we're tamping it down, which is what I had spoken of earlier. It says subside, ease, let up, decrease, fade, slacken it, recede, and weaken it. I think as we learn to live our lives, we've learned to meet people that we never thought we'd ever meet before, and have a an understanding with. We've had conversations with them. We've shared a meal with them. We've done things that we never thought that we would do, only because we lessened, we became abated. We lessened how we felt about things, and they let us see it on a personal level with them, versus us looking at it as a more global or more accepted level in terms of the prejudices that we have, where we didn't have to join a group, but we brought in our opinion. Thanks, Lavender. We brought in the personal, as opposed to just making it a generality, something that we've made it general where everybody can understand it as being important, you know, where we made it personal. And we made it personal, then it became even more important, more consistent with who we are, understanding that we're going to live as long as we can, and then we're going to leave here. So living here, we have to make the best of what it is that we are living with and living through. Because let's face it, we've lived through some things. We've lived through some things. And you look back through history and you look at, before Christ and all the way through, his, being killed and the rising up and all of that. And then you come all the way to the present day now, and you look at some of the things that are going on and you say, wow, the world really has exposed us through history. And it wasn't our personal experience because we weren't around during that time frame. But where we're around now, we're seeing that wars are breaking out, and hostile words are being stated, and there's always the constant threat. And now it's not coming in just as the physical threat, it's coming in through our computers, like what I'm speaking into right now. It's coming in that way, through the mishing, which is what I talked about last week, of where they combine the SMS, which is the statements that come in through text, through and adding that with the whole concept of going through your emails and your messages to make sense of where you are, what you're doing, who you're contacting. It's scary. It's scary. So you ask yourself, well, how do I live? Well, to me, I try my best to just be hopeful every day I get up, that this day will end, and I'm still here. And then tomorrow morning when I wake up, I can say, for me, I'm going to say, thank God that I'm still here. So that's how I live my life of having, a foundation of hope, because, I can't determine what anybody feels about me, and having their biases and making it where it's difficult for me to just live my life. I just want to live my life. I want to live my life. Let's see. Analysis, analyze, attraction. Those are good. Appetite, attitude. All those are good. Analyze. Appreciate. Okay. Appreciate is good, because I appreciate anybody that even gives me a conversation towards trying to understand or help me understand who they are, just as me trying to help them understand who I am. That's a conversation, because it allows us to both give our opinion, and it would open it up where it wouldn't have to be criticized, but we can get to a level of understanding that we can meet in the middle and understand that that's where you are, this is where I am. How do we overlap in any way? That would make it where it would be almost like a ceasefire. We make it where we're working together. Now we're looking at how things make it forward, how it makes it forward. So that would be kind of neat, to look at life in that instance. And my last word in my connection to this in bias is solutions. What solutions do we look at when we're looking at bias? A solution says is that it's a means of solving a problem or dealing with the difficult situation. There you go, right there. That's pretty much what I just said. Stand. Ooh, I love that. Stand. Taking a stance. That's good. That's really good. There's a song and it says, what do you do, when things have just turned against you? And it says, you just stand. I think it's by BB Winans. BB Winans. Listen to that song. It's quite remarkable in the fact that it's really saying what makes sense. What makes sense. Sometimes if we just stand still, we'll get an answer. If we stand still, don't keep going forward unless we're in danger. You don't run, unless somebody's running after us, but just putting ourselves in a position where we're ready to hear what needs to be stated and we need to hear. And then that the other side is tolerating or is tolerating what we have to say and is willing to listen, then to me, that makes it where you have an opportunity for solutions. Strike. Okay, that's good. I don't know if that's a negative strike or just strike, but anyway, it says solutions, a means of solving a problem or dealing with a difficult situation, which talks about its possibility for where the resolutions will become a result of having that opportunity to talk with each other, put out the hand of fellowship, or look at the opportunity that bridges gaps. And sometimes it just starts with some words, and a smile. I'm a smiler. Um, let's see it. Then some other words to be descriptive of that. It's giving explanation, allowing things to be key and unfolded, allowing people opportunities where they can just unroll who they are or what they stand behind or what they stand for. Same thing with yourself, because sometimes you find out that you're really not that far apart. Only, but the understanding is what makes it convoluted, because we have our own understanding of what we think they are doing, what we think they are saying. And that's not saying, don't get me wrong, that there isn't something that they're saying that is extremely negative and extremely dividing. No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying that sometimes if they're willing and you're willing, there's just an opportunity to express and come up with some form of solution that allows things to have clarification. Let's see, shift. Oh, that's good too. Having a shift. Still and know. Yeah, be still and know. That's good too. Sometimes it says, even when it on a religious realm, it talks about be still and know that I am God. That's one of the things that it says. Good word. Thank you. Love you, Lavender. Thank you for joining. So anyway, we really have to look at how we listen to the noise of the world. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of, between the radio stations, the TV stations, the social media locations. And the thing about it is you can be minding your own business, just want to laugh at a few things online and listen to some music, but it shows you that the internet allows for you to be disrupted all day long. If you're on there all day, you've probably seen 50 commercials, buy this, go here, do that, hear this note from the latest politician statements. That's how life is. Hey, where did you get those big black beads from? I got these when I went to Hawaii. And I have a friend in Hawaii. If you want some, I'll see if they can send me some. Because I just bought them at a flea market, at an open market. So, and these were brown, but I also have a black pair. But I'll find them. If I find them, I'll send you some. All right. Right. I think they are purple. No, they're brown, but I have, my outfit has a little purplish brownish hue in it based on the lights, but it is brown. Sorry. Love them. Thank you. Listen, you guys have a wonderful day. Think about if you have a bias. Okay. We all do. But I'm saying, don't let it interfere with you living your life. Don't let it interfere with you loving who you are and making every attempt to like as many as you can. Okay. Put that hand across and say, have a wonderful day to somebody. Smile at them. That you don't even have to touch them with a smile. It just goes right here. Okay. If you don't do anything else, hit the share button and let this be shared. I love you guys. I'll see you on Wednesday. All right. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.